Okay.
All
Thank you,
right,
Jacqueline.
here we are. Okay,
Let's kick
so
off. Let's say what we're going to do. Jacqueline, why don't you just give a little background to yourself?
sure. All right. Super happy to be here today. Thanks everyone for hopping on. So I'm Jacqueline. I work for Zooli, my partner business. I actually used to work for Podio, so that's how I got my start doing this. And then since 2017, I have had my partner business helping companies get up and running with Podio in whatever capacity that means. So I help with anything from basic Q&A if you just need kind of an expert on hand if you get stuck on something, all the way to full on implementations. So if you just, want your Podio to work, you don't necessarily care how, you just need someone to do it. I'm your resource to make that happen, including integrations to other tools that you're using. So that's kind of my quick intro. And if anyone has any questions after this, I'll be sharing my email address. So happy to hear from anyone if you have questions after the presentation.
Fantastic. And for myself, my name's Jordan. I am a co-founder of Smartphone. And Smartphone really, Podio is in our blood at Smartphone. Smartphone was actually built originally for Podio. We were the first phone system specifically built for Podio, launched in 2017. And we still are, in my view, the best-in-class phone system for Podio. We're the only all-in-one system that's seamlessly built for Podio and gives you all of the functionalities that you need for a phone system fully connected with Podio. And that's a really important part, which we'll dive in with Jackie on, in terms of being able to make sure that you have a full and complete view of all the activity within your system. I mean, Podio's great strength in many ways is its ability to be anything and to be able to touch every part of your business. And by integrating Smartphone, by integrating your phone system, which also, of course, brings your calls, texts, voicemails, video calling, a 4-line power dialer, all those communication streams being seamlessly linked in with Podio is a game changer for anybody who's doing a business involving sales, whether they're using a power dialer or not, as well as people who are just supporting customers where they have their customer database inside of Podio. Being able to sync every single bit of that communication is absolutely vital. And today we're going to talk through some of the main things that you get when you connect your phone system in Podio and the benefits that bring to your company. And then at the end, we're going to give you a little glimpse into some of the things that we are bringing into Smartphone that's going to benefit you as a Podio user. And I've even got some early access opportunities for everybody who's watching this. Jacqueline, should we start the discussion then? The kind of feature point, if we go over to the next slide, the feature point of Podio and Smartphone's integration is that seamless ability to capture every interaction. Now, Jackie, when you set up Smartphone for your customers, obviously you deal with a lot of different sectors. What are the key things, where are their key pain points, and how does, fully integrating these communication strands help them out?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think one of the things I really want to highlight that I'm probably going to say 10 times throughout this webinar is like the ease of setup and how seamlessly it works and connects with Podio is the huge highlight on why I always recommend everyone to use Smartphone. There are, of course, other phone systems that you can use and build API integrations and whatnot, but nothing is going to be as tight and easy of an integration as Smartphone. It takes like 5 minutes to connect to Podio, and you can even connect it to your existing apps, and it just works. And then everything is connected to what you're already storing in Podio in terms of like the contact information, and all of your call logs are going to be connected to those contacts, and it all happens automatically. So you can continue doing all of your work in Podio, as many of us do, and Smartphone is just going to be your partner to continue that work and help you work even more efficiently. And in addition to having Smartphone constantly keeping your logs attached to your contacts, you also have the power of Podio behind that to trigger automations if you want to kind of keep projects moving along as certain communication points happen, or really anything, if there's any like calculations you want to build, which I'll show in our demo later. There's really just limitless potential. And, I've done work across so many different industries, and everyone has, different use cases. And with, both smartphone and Podio's flexibility, sky's the limit. You can really, like, if you can think of it, we can do it.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that I've noticed over the years of, working with customers to integrate smartphone is how important that, when we talk about seamless interaction, of course, that's true from a, setting up Podio. It's built to integrate with Podio. You are able to look inside of Podio and sync to specific apps. You're able to sync your contacts automatically. Of course, that's important. But another really important benefit that I've noticed, particularly for those who are in sales, is, if you've ever managed a sales team, you probably have had the experience where your salespeople aren't necessarily the best at logging things. I've never yet met a salesperson that loves technology and loves logging things. And because the smartphone Podio integration is so tight, and because you're integrating your key sales tool of your phone system, your text messages there, and every interaction that your people are doing are going to be logged automatically. That is a hugely important thing from a sales point of view, to be able to know that your agents, your salespeople, they're not having to spend time manually doing things. They're not having to spend time logging a call, remembering to do this. Who did I call today? Doing all that. The metrics that you need and want, all of that happens seamlessly. And that means that the data gets logged, your customer experience gets logged, but also things like the call recording and all of that stuff automatically comes in. That's a really important part of elevating a sales team. Have you what do you think about that from a sales perspective, Jackie? What have you seen as key benefits from a sales person and a sales management and performance point of view?
Yeah, so it's especially beneficial if you have a sales team that kind of, works together. Like maybe you have more than one person working the same lead. You can get caught up on the conversation with that lead by at a glance, by just pulling up that contact in Podio and seeing the full communication history. And nothing's going to be missing because, like you said, everything gets logged automatically. So you're going to see every text message, every phone call. So you can say to a lead, "Oh, I see you talked to so and so yesterday," and then you have the call summary right there with your AI summaries, which we can touch on later as well. You can see exactly what they've discussed and at what point in the sales process they are. They have, call notes as well, so you can see what the past rep kind of said about the call, or where they might feel that they are in terms of like readiness to close or things like that. And then from a manager perspective, there's also really great tools that allow a manager to kind of assist with a call, whether it's just listening in, or they can hop on if the sales rep might need, some help. You can also do, anything you could do with, in terms of like warm transfers, cold transfers. It has kind of everything that, a traditional phone system might have, just fully baked into Podio and, connected to everything that you have in there.
Well, you mentioned AI. I mean, that's a good point to probably to bring in kind of the ideas of how AI is starting to revolutionize your telephone experience in general, but also how the integrations that we built with AI tools and how it syncs into Podio is really going to help. Now, if we pop over to the next screen slide, we've got a couple really important bits of AI that we have either been launched already or that we're working on. Because, of course, AI, it's one of those things where everybody's talking about it. And of course, they're talking about it for a reason. It's really, really important. But you also have to think about where it's going to be useful, right? It's not just a buzzword. Where is it going to be useful? And there's a couple ways that we have really invested into it to make your Podio communication experience and how you're dealing with your customers inside of Podio using smartphone even better. Number one, as you see here, just that ability to have every call that's made have a summary, a review of the keywords that you've set up that it listens for, and having that full transcript. completely and automatically logged inside of Podio on that call, that's a really, really very useful method of using AI for both training as well as being able to spot where there may be a deal or an opportunity that you're about to lose because maybe the agent isn't doing what you want. And that's a great example of a first part of AI that is a practical thing that is helping people on a day-to-day basis. Jacqueline, in terms of the transcripts, when you talk about transcripts with your customers when you're setting up Podio, what are the key areas that they kind of see transcripts being useful for them?
I mean, I think it's just great to be able to see the communication with a contact at a glance. I don't necessarily want to be able to listen to like 10 call recordings with somebody. That takes a lot of time. But if I have the transcript here, I can just kind of glance over and skim, or let's say I'm looking for a specific conversation, but I can't necessarily remember when it was. I can easily skim through these communications or even run a keyword search as you see like where did we talk about disclosure forms? You can find it easily that way. And then from a managerial perspective, it's the same thing. Personally, I'm more of a visual person. I would rather read a transcript than have to listen to like a 10-minute conversation. So this is a lot easier to just kind of read and digest and figure out, what are the kind of the areas of improvement and what did the agent do really, really well. So it's a great way of making your work much more efficient, whether you're an agent making calls or a manager trying to help enable your team to, perform better.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I speak to people all the time, I speak to smartphone customers as well as people at events who maybe are looking at us or have never heard of us. And when people are asking me about, what are the AI tools and where can AI really help me when it comes to the phone system and my business, one of the areas that I always touch on is exactly what you just said in terms of quality, maintaining quality of your agent performance. Because a lot of times one of the mistakes I see people do all the time when they're training agents on the phone, right? If they're training a set of cold callers, or if they're training someone new to do telesales, or even lead follow up, is they tend to focus on an initial training, and if and that's kind of it, right? They don't do the next steps of training and reinforcement, and that is a critical mistake. But of course, over the history, we've had to do a lot of manual reinforcement. Jackie, you just pointed out, like, I don't really want to listen to all these calls. Well, absolutely right. Nobody really wants to listen to all those calls. But for a long time, your only option would be to do daily, weekly, fortnightly call review sessions with your team where you literally have to scan through, listen in, find a good call, find a bad call, and it's really, really heavily manual. Well, where does AI help with this? Hugely in two ways. One, as we've already shown, this sort of idea of the transcripts, the summaries, giving you that immediate ability, but also other tools. We've recently launched an integration with a system called objection proof selling, which actually does an AI generated call score for every single call you make, and it actually grades your salespeople across the board on the key sales drivers: empathy, questioning, all those sorts of things. And that becomes, again, another game changer in terms of your ability to monitor and improve performance, because instead of you having to do those hard yards of listening, what you're actually going to be able to do is let the AI tool listen in to every call and raise its hand when someone's not performing, or when someone's performing brilliantly, and you got to model that behavior. That's a really exciting way forward, um, in terms of being able to reinforce and continue to maintain quality as you scale a business. It's a hugely important part. Jackie, in terms of the call scoring, and just no, not just call scoring, but in terms of quality control, when you work with customers who maybe have more people on the phone, like, what have been the key problems that you've seen for your customer base in Podio, kind of maintaining that quality over time, not just when they start, but over time?
Yeah, I'm really excited about these AI tools for that exact reason. Like you said, a manager isn't going to have the time to listen to every single phone call that the agent, goes through. So they're not necessarily going to have visibility into, what are maybe the shortcomings of an agent or areas where they might need additional training. Maybe, some of the training that they went over 3 years ago has kind of slipped through and, they have some areas of improvement. Well, now with these call scores or in the AI summaries, you have such quick and easy visibility into every single interaction that that person has, and you can use that to find, within minutes, kind of some areas of improvement for them versus, before this really wasn't even realistic because like you said, every so often you might jump onto one specific call, listen in on it with them, and then give your feedback. But you're not necessarily going to find every issue on one single phone call. And it's also not practical to, listen to a bunch of different phone calls to kind of find, all the different areas where they might need some assistance. So it's really opening the door to training potential that wasn't there before, purely for the time savings. It takes so much of the manual work out, and really just helps people work so much more efficiently. So I'm really excited. I haven't gotten to play around with the AI tools so much yet, but I've seen some of your demos on it, and it's so cool, and I'm really excited to get people using it.
Absolutely. Um, Another part of that kind of training and quality bit that helps when you are integrating your telephone and your telecoms directly into Podio is that live ability, like you discussed earlier, whether it's warm transfer or call monitoring. Now, if we move to the next slide, the ability, one of the really important things that I've noticed, certainly when I teach how to train new telephone agents, I usually teach a method called I do, you listen, you do, I coach, you do, I listen. It's a three-step process of onboarding new agents. And the technology that smartphone has is a really important part of that method because it lets you do this with live customers. And in this case, on the screen, you can see this is our call monitoring capability. It's a smartphone pro feature. And what it lets you do is essentially look at all the calls that are currently happening inside your system. And you can do, as you see here on the screen, you can listen in. And when you listen in, you are listening to the call, but nobody knows you're there. You can whisper, and that's when you are able to talk to your person, your agent, your salesperson, with the other person not hearing. And then, of course, you can barge in, and that's when you are either the call is completely going off the rails or they've asked you to come in. I've seen both happen, to be honest. But that's a really great way of being able to train agents because you are able to get them live in a controlled setting very quickly. And that is a really important part of this. Now, I know you mentioned the kind of call monitoring and whispering and barging, Jacqueline, before. When you have how important have you seen that be to some of your customers who are maybe scaling their agents? Where have they seen that cause an impact?
Yeah, it's very important, and I have call center experience myself. So just speaking as someone who's both worked in a call center and then now I train people to set the software up. It helps enable agents to kind of reach the point where they feel confident taking calls on their own so much faster because you have kind of like a handhold, if you will, where somebody's listening and on hand to help. If you need it versus just kind of throwing you to the wolves, like, okay, go make your phone calls. So it helps people get up and running much faster, which, when you're scaling your sales team, it takes a lot less resources when you can get somebody kind of able to work on their own confidently much quicker, and allows kind of the trainers to get back to doing their work as well. So it's been really cool to see how that impacts sales teams. And then you can see in the screenshot too, again, it's tied to Podio. So let's say you're talking to your lead and you need to remember, oh, okay, where are we in this conversation? Who's this guy? What is he looking to buy? It's all right there and super quick and easy to access. So it's not even just the tool itself that, is really great to use, but again, tying into Podio, everything is just so neat and easy to access. So your team has everything that they need to be successful.
Absolutely. And it goes hand in hand in my mind in many ways with the notion of warm transfers. And a lot of people may not know the warm transfer kind of capability, but warm transferring is something that I teach all the time for cold calling companies. People who are doing a lot of a lot of times that may have a VA company working somewhere, and they're hitting the old follow-ups really hard with VAs. And then when they get a good lead, they get a hot lead. That's when they transfer from the VAs to an internal sales team, right? That's a really standard setup. And warm transfer is something that I always try and emphasize as a way of keeping a lead on the call. My view is if you've got someone on the phone and they seem like a hot lead, like they've indicated, yes, I want to do whatever, whether you're selling something, or you're trying to buy a house, or you're installing solar panels, or you're a property management company, whatever it is. If you've got someone who's hot on the line, you don't want to leave them. And warm transferring, again, it's one of these functions which works so beautifully with Podio, because if you've got a VA using smartphone or our 4-line dialer, smart dialer, they can be on a call, they can have a really good prospect, and they can say, hold on a second, let me get Jacqueline, who's my manager, on the call, and they can help you out right now. You can then, your agent, your VA, they can put that lead on hold. They can then go and dial inside a smartphone. They can dial Jacqueline. Jacqueline can come on. Again, the lead's still on hold, and they can say, listen, I've got this great person on the line. Here's the situation. Da 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 da. Explain it. Then they bring the lead back in, and they make an introduction. Hi, John, this is Jacqueline. She's going to take care of it, just like I said, blah, 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 blah. They do that. And then that agent can leave. That agent can leave and start making the calls, because that's what they're there for. They're for that bulk action. And Jacqueline in the lead is going to continue that conversation. And that whole thing is going to be seamlessly logged in Podio. You're not going to have it, you're not going to have only part of it. That whole interaction is going to be logged there. It's a really great way of using technology, of using smartphone, of using your CRM to keep someone on the line, to keep someone there, and never get into that situation where you go, I've got a hot lead and I'm going to have to get someone to call them back. Because if you get someone to call them back, you have dropped the ball and you're opening yourself to losing that lead. It's something I kind of preach and preach and preach and preach. Jacqueline, in terms of the kind of closing out this slide, warm transferring is something that I see so many, just use cases for, just like I just said. Is there anything that particularly sticks out from your experience of customers around warm transferring?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of nailed it. It's all about creating the most seamless experience for the lead as possible, and nobody likes being bounced around. It's not a good experience for somebody to say, okay, like, let me just pass you on, and then you're on hold with somebody else. So the warm transfer just kind of helps, like you said, keep that lead connected, and is just overall a much better experience, being introduced to the next person that you're talking to versus just kind of like chucking them over to the next person who's going to talk to them. So it's all about just kind of, making the experience as good as possible, which hopefully means you're more likely to close the deal with that lead.
Absolutely. Well, we'll finish out. If we go to the next slide, we got one more real topic before we dive in to the demo that Jacqueline's going to do, and that is actually this idea of power dialing, right? Power dialing is a really efficient way, not just, a lot of people use power dialing or think of power dialing as a cold calling tool only, and that's not at all true. Some of the most effective uses of power dialing that I've ever seen is actually on seamlessly being able to follow up with your leads, with your prospects, right? The follow-up is so important, is so crucial. And Smart Dialer was built and is built for Podio to help you follow up. For those of you who don't know, Smart Dialer is a 4-line power dialer. That means that you can load up a larger list of follow-ups or prospects you're working on, and essentially your agents can click play and start dialing as efficiently as possible, not having to move from one record to the other. And some of the ways that we've really made it powerful for Podio is that when you set up a smart dialer campaign, which is sort of what you can see on the screen here, you can actually choose to get your leads or your follow-ups from any app in your Podio system. You can choose anywhere. You can grab a list of people, bring it in, and within minutes, your agents, your teams can click play and start dialing. And again, with every single one of those calls logged inside of your Podio system seamlessly. That ability to do the larger volume is really critical. I mean, before we move on to the demo, Jacqueline, is there anything, is there any kind of key bits of smart dialer that you've noticed with your customers, or things that have really impacted the sort of people you've helped integrate smart dialer with Podio?
I think it's really just the efficiency that it introduces, where instead of just kind of going down a list and calling people one by one, it does it all for you. The rep can just sit back and wait for a call to connect. And it just helps you get through those lists so much more efficiently, which, again, it's all about improving efficiency and keeping things tightly knit to Podio. And I'll be showing, later a demo of just how that dialer looks and feels. So yeah, it's been a really great tool just to kind of help people work faster and, as a result, close more deals.
Absolutely. Well, why don't we head into the demo, and let you kind of show smartphone shining.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so before I really hop in and show it working, the kind of two key components to any smartphone setup is going to be your contacts app and your communications app. Contacts is exactly what it sounds like. It's where all your contacts are stored. When you're doing your initial setup, you can either create a new contacts app, or if you already have your contacts somewhere in Podio, you can link it to that existing app. So it's really built to just kind of play with what you already have. And then the communications app is where all of those call and SMS logs are going to be stored. So let's hop into the contacts app, and I'm going to go into a sample contact, and I'll show you how this all works in action. So my sample contact is here. So just to kind of walk through this, this is like at its most basic, your contacts app just needs a name and a phone number. But of course, you're probably going to store some other things like email. Maybe you have like a status, but here's just a kind of a super bare bones. And then a cool option that I really wanted to highlight was a lot of smartphone customers will have these call and SMS history calculation fields, which really just take the communication records that are linked to that contact and sums them up in like a nice condensed way. You could, of course, see all of the communication records linked at the bottom, and you can kind of customize those badges as you can in Podio. But some people kind of prefer it in this more dense format. So this is something that I like to add for my customers so that they can see all of those logs just at a quick glance. So smartphone comes with a Chrome extension that is going to manage the sending and receiving of calls and text messages. So you'll see next to any phone number, I have this call and send text button. So I can use that to start a call with any contact, and we'll just place this and see how it shows up. And here we go. So now it's ringing. That customer or lead is going to get the call. I have this actually going to a phone number, so you can see that it is ringing on my phone. And then the call takes place. We're going to go ahead and end that so we're not getting too much echo. And then you can take your call notes here optionally, and then you have a couple of other options. But once you're done, you just go ahead and click finalize call, and you can just put the result here. So we'll say she answered. And then within a couple of seconds, that's all going to be sent to Podio as a call log. So if I hit refresh.
We actually can't see their pop-up, Jacqueline, for some reason.
Oh, I wonder if the screen share doesn't show it.
The screen share is screwing up on that one.
Well, it looked amazing. It was just a little, it was just a little pop-up, had, the dialer there. Maybe if I'm brave, I'll just share my full screen instead of the window. Let's just try that. Let's try that. Yeah, we'll go share.
I'm gonna blame.
It actually does look really cool.
It is so cool. Okay. Is my whole screen here?
Yes.
I see your whole screen. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for calling that out. So now I'm going to hit call. and should see that here now.
There we go. Awesome. Yep.
Cool. So there it is. We get this pretty cool little pop-up. And then here's what I was saying, where, you can add your notes, whatever you want, click on finalize, and I'll just say they answered, we had a great call. And then my original one, you could see here on the communication item, got sent to Podio, and then hopefully I can refresh and I'll see that other one, and I do. So to jump into one of these communication records, I'll just show you all of the different information that gets captured as part of that. So like Jordan was saying, you're really removing the kind of responsibility of the agent to log all of their calls. This is all just going to happen automatically. You're going to see who placed the call, what was the result, did they answer, did they not answer. All of your notes would be added here if you added them, and then your call recording is here, and then that's where you'll get your kind of like AI transcripts and stuff like that as an option. So all of the records are right here. It all happens automatically, super seamless, and tied to the contact so that you can click on any contact and see super easily what all has happened as part of our communication with this person. And then in terms of receiving inbound calls, it's the same deal. So I'm just going to pretend that I am this lead, Eve, and I will make a call so you can see how that pops up. And that is coming in. And that is coming in here, so I can see I am getting a call. I will call her back. So we'll just click on that. And then again, even if it's a missed call, it's going to go to a call log so that I can see that we got a missed call. That's actually a really great opportunity for maybe some automations. For any missed call that comes in, you might want to notify maybe a group of people to say, hey, notify my team that we had somebody calling in, so that they can call them back as soon as possible because the person that they called was not available. And then I also wanted to highlight the smartphone mobile app. So there's mobile apps for both iOS and Android. And so let's say I'm out on the go, because of course you're not always going to be sitting at your desk ready to take that call. If I were to receive that call, I would actually get the call ringing on my phone, just as if it was coming through like my standard phone app. And because it's so tightly linked to Podio, it's the same thing where when they call, you have the caller ID, so I know exactly who's calling, and I can take their call on the go. And then same as anywhere, that call is going to be recorded and logged straight to the lead so that everybody can see live updates of, what are all the different conversations we've had with that person. And then texting works very similarly. You can just hit this send text button and it will pop up a kind of message box for you to type a message to the person. You can say, hi, Eve, are you free at 2 p.m. for a call? And I will send that off. And then I will just wait for Eve's response. And I'm going to just respond from my phone. Let's see.
I was gonna say, Jackie, as you're responding to that text, I also want to point out that with the Chrome extension, one of the things I love most about the Chrome extension is it actually follows you wherever you go in Chrome, and that means that if you've got people who are working in Podio, but they're also doing other things, right? They're looking at the New York Times, or they're doing whatever. Wherever they are, an inbound communication will pop up, and as they swap over tabs, that Chrome extension communication will go with them, so that it's not like they have to be sitting there, only looking at Podio to make sure they answer their phones. They've got not only the mobile app, but even if they're just sitting there on their computer doing something on another screen on the computer, that Chrome extension, if they've set themselves to available, will pop down. And if they then swap over to Podio or somewhere else, it's going to go with them so they can seamlessly manage it wherever they are. It's one of the powerful things, I think, of the Chrome extension.
Yeah, it's really great. And it just comes with you. It's all linked to Podio. Like, you're not going to find a more seamless connection with this ease of setup with any other tool. And so then you can see here, we have this is appended to our calculation here. Are you free at 2 p.m. for a call? Eve says, how about 3? It's all here, super easy to read. And then I also wanted to hop into smartphone itself. The ease of setting it up, it's just within minutes. And so it makes it really easy. Like, when any of my clients come to me and say, hey, we need help, like, with a phone system for Podio, it's a no-brainer. I wouldn't recommend anything else. It's just so easy. There's no reason to even think of any other options, to be honest. So this is the web UI for smartphone. So in addition to everything being in Podio, you can also work out of this awesome UI. So if I hop into my inbox here, you can see a really nice interface with all of my different messages. So it can be just kind of a little easier to be coming in here to see what are my new SMS messages that I need to look at. So you can come in here and just see the full history of all of the different conversations that we've had with that person. There's also a video call feature, which I really like. It helps just, make things work really seamlessly instead of having to like send a Zoom calendar invite and then everyone clicks up, blah, blah, blah. I can just click on video call. And what that's going to do is just send them a smartphone video link. And it's going to send it to them via text message. And then they can just click on that to join. So super quick and easily. The video call works great. Easier to share your screen than in Microsoft Teams. It's perfect.
Well, and I was gonna say, none of that, but that video call, if you're on Smartphone Pro, that video call can be recorded and it'll be synced just like any other communication you do against your contact inside of Podio. That means if you regularly do video calls with your customer base, whether that is like with customers like I do, or if you're doing solar and you're talking to someone on a house and they want to show you around, or you're buying properties and the seller is at the property, the power of being able to very quickly send them a video link and not have them download a single thing. They just click the link and they're on a video call. And if you got Smartphone Pro, it's recorded and inside of Podio within, a couple, 30 seconds after that call is finished.
Yeah, and it's all about, how quick and easy and efficient it is. Your team is going to be so happy using a tool that is just easy and like does all of the annoying manual work for them, and they can just focus on communication. So the next thing I want to show is the smart dialer. Jordan touched on that a little bit, but I just wanted to highlight like how easy it is to set up and just get going, and you can call, thousands of leads in a day. So I've set up this sample campaign. To set up a campaign, it's as easy as just connecting it to an existing Podio app. You can choose a view, or you can actually even just add filters right there in the smartphone interface. Or if you receive a CSV or Excel file, you can upload that straight into smartphone as well. So it really works around, what is your process for getting all of these leads into a list. And then you set up, how many different lines do you want to be calling? Who are my team members who are going to be participating in this campaign? Couple of other quick and easy settings, and then you're done. So again, in like a few minutes, you have this campaign set up. And then, as Jordan said, you just hit play, and then it just goes. So then everyone hops on, you hit start, and it's just going to start making phone calls. And you'll be connected in, once someone answers, picks up, everything gets logged in Podio. And then you probably saw on that landing page, there's also some really nice metrics on how the campaign is going. So, we're calling all of these people. How effective is this campaign? What are some maybe areas for improvement? And then you can also, then dial in and see, well, maybe this agent is having a really great run of like closing deals, but maybe this agent isn't. Okay, well now there's a good opportunity for some of those training resources that we went through earlier. So really gives you some great visibility into kind of like the effectiveness of these campaigns and of your individual agents. So I think that's about what I wanted to touch on. Jordan, do you want to talk about any key features I may have missed, or?
Yeah, well, you haven't missed anything, but one of the things that you mentioned so nicely, the metrics here, but also, if you've got a team, particularly if you're in sales, right? If you've got a company that is using Podio and smartphone to drive your sales, then metrics matter. And we do have a full and comprehensive reporting system. It's over there on the left on the main menu. Yeah. And the reporting system lets you analyze reports by your, this is kind of an overview screen. A couple things here that actually people don't realize the power of. That inbound calls, busiest times, and outbound answered calls, busiest times chart at the bottom, that's a heat map. And that's really, really great for knowing on an inbound point of view when you need to maybe staff up because you've got a lot more people, but also on an outbound point of view, when you can start to see this is when the majority of I get my answers on, then you know that that's where you want to center your calling around. And with the team and number and campaign reports, you're able to drill down into dozens of different metric points across everybody. So you can compare team members, look at different metrics for team or numbers, and numbers matter very much. If you're buying a lot of inbound tracking numbers for a lot of different marketing activities, you want to know what number is producing and what isn't. Where am I getting the most leads? And so this this is a very comprehensive reporting structure where your activities across your teams, across your numbers, across your smart dialer campaigns can be viewed, and you can schedule reports to be sent to you and your teams by email at whatever frequency you want. And so you've got that, that to me, again, as part of, for me, when I see companies that integrate smartphone with Podio, our goal is to get their performance up, right? That's the whole point of connecting the two. And the reporting structure we've got here gives you so much great information so that you can track performance. I think that's probably my most important one. The only final thing, Jackie, that you may want to, I don't know if you actually can show on this account because I don't know if this is a demo account for you, but compliance is a really important part of the telephone ecosystem now. And if you're dealing in the United States at all, you're going to have to deal with a certain part of compliance. If you want to send text messages, there's something called A2P10DLC. And smartphone has got a very comprehensive trust center where you can manage and deal with all the compliance elements that you have to. And we've got in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you'll see that little chat bubble. We've actually got a live team. This is the Trust Center where you can manage all the parts of the compliance very, very easily. And we've got a live team on hand to guide you through and to help you. Mondays to Fridays, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. We're fully there to support you onboarding smartphone, but also to help with any compliance issues or any problems you're having with the system. And that personal support is a really important kind of final feature I always like to highlight.